But unlike Picnic at Hanging Rock's tale of disappearing schoolgirls, the gothic horror that unfolded in this sheep paddock near this abandoned cottage is true.
Come mind your head.
Mark Grossman and his father Ron bought this place 10 years ago.
Most likely this would have probably been the front room, the living area type of the house.
It's good country for cropping and stock at Towitta on the plains just outside South Australia's Barossa Valley. But something else also flourishes here, a fascination with a 115-year-old gruesome murder.
Roughly every 2 or 3 months I quite often get a phone call, people ringing up asking if they can visit the cottage. I inform them that it wasn't the original cottage, but they still want to visit the site.
On New Year's Day 1902, 14-year-old Berta Shippen had her throat cut in the home she shared with her mother and father, 24-year-old sister Mary and 2 brothers.
Wake up, please.
The 2 girls were at home alone that night. The parents were off visiting relatives at Eden Valley, over 20 kilometres away. The brothers were sleeping in the barn. Mary Shippen claims she awoke to find a bearded intruder lying across the bed. After a struggle, she escaped and sent one of her brothers to get help. It was, of course, too late.
Young Bertha had been stabbed at least 40 times. The actual stab wound to kill her was in the back of the neck.
A week later, after a coronial inquest held in the Shippens' barn, Mary was charged with her sister's murder. The story was a sensation across Australia, the first in a series of South Australian murder mysteries. But then, just as sensationally, Mary Shippen was acquitted at trial. And that's Mary?
Yes.
The one who was accused?
Yes.
So, who done it? The question that's still being asked today at the nearby Sedan pub. Kevin Rosenzweig's grandfather was a contemporary of Mr. Shippen, part of the close-knit of German families who settled in the region. He remembers clearly the old man's tyrannical reputation, the tales he'd once murdered a travelling hawker.
Der alte Vater Shippen, das war ein richtiger Drache von Mensch.
Kevin Rosenzweig's belief, shared widely in the district, is that Mr. Shippen himself killed Berta, worried she might talk about the dead hawker.
And I reckon he got up at night, rode one horseback down here, cut Bertha's throat, and then rode back home again.
Historian and novelist Patricia Summerling used the Shippen case as the basis of her recent novel.
I don't think for one moment that he did it. He could not have got there and back to Eden Valley by the morning time. If you were to ask me directly, I think Mary actually did it.
Towitta's isolation and the German otherness of the place were themes in the contemporary newspaper coverage, and they are just as strong today.
It's in a remote place. You've got to remember the Barossa Valley is full of German people who love their stories, with many, many tales about the Noon Lady, which is what I named my book after. The Noon Lady was a German witch, or a Wendish witch, who actually killed small children.
But the Shippen murder isn't just a story that keeps being retold. It changed the way stories are told. The public was so desperate for the latest details, the Adelaide Advertiser hired a car to make the trip to the nearest telegraph station, the first time a car had been used in the pursuit of journalism in Australia.
I find it amazing that they had to go to such great, unprecedented lengths in pursuit of a story. Murder cases do captivate people, and especially when there's a loss of such a young life, we do really mourn that loss as a community, and we have this burning desire to know how could it happen and why.
Moving through the cottage.
After Mary Shippen's acquittal, Mark Grossman says the family, still together, moved into this place. Mr. Shippen had started building it before his younger daughter's death. And they're all living here playing happy families as though nothing's happened. It's just, it's astonishing really, isn't it?
It's astonishing, but it's probably the dominating role that the father had in the control of the family.
Eventually, though, the family left the district. Kevin Rosenzweig thinks sometime around 1908. Berta Shippen is the only one still here, buried in the Sedan cemetery.
Here she is.
Mary Shippen was 41 years old when she died in 1919 of tuberculosis in another cemetery, remembered by a simple plaque among the elaborate headstones, and, of course, for the death of her sister.
She always wore a grey dress and grey bonnet and walked around, wouldn't look, and that, oh, that's the grey lady. It appears she really copped it. And of course Bertha, well, she copped it with the knife.